So, this book has brought out a very strong emotional response. And I think for good reason. Some characters in here have meant a lot to some people. And while I do share the opinion with a lot of Stormlight Archive fans that the first books in the series were better and then kind of got worse as they went, I think this book has brought out so much negativity, and I don't want to add to that. This video is going to be my spoiler-filled thoughts on the characters. By this one, I was so connected to the characters and seeing where they went in here that all of the downsides about how this book was written and how it ended up are not going to make me hate it. I'm going to talk about all the characters. Super spoilery, and I'm probably not going to talk about whether I loved or hated the book, because, I mean, each person can decide that for themselves. Doesn't matter what I think. If you would like an insider look at my notes consist of the names of the characters. I want to make sure not to forget anyone. Starting with Gavilar. I started that book not really having feelings for Gavilar one way or the other. I think it's Rhythm of War, where we get Navani's perspective in that first prologue, the night that it all went down. We get a clearer image of who Gavilar was as a person. She reveals a little more of what her marriage was like, what the man she was married to was like. When we get other people's perspectives, especially Dalinar, Gavilar is kind of put on this pedestal. And so since we see through those point of views, we don't really see who Gavilar really is. And so when we go in from Gavilar's point of view, seeing how he really felt about his brother and how he manipulated his brother's feelings, I kind of hate Gavilar now. Even the Stormfather, who has picked Gavilar, is kind of second-guessing himself now. Maybe not Gavilar's as good of a guy as I thought he was going to be. And then also that whole prologue with the Stormfather talking to Gavilar made me go, wait a minute, what's been going on this whole time? And that prologue made me really feel like I need to go back and reread the other books with that knowledge now. And other knowledge. There was so much revealed in this one. So going down my list, the character that I was probably the most upset about. So this character just felt like they didn't even matter. They were just thrown in for emotional response, both from characters in the book and from us reading it. I felt like he was just so mistreated by Sanderson and by Taravangian/Odium, and that's Gavinor. Cute little boy had already been through so much stuff. He's just trying to have a childhood. He follows Lift and gets sucked into the spiritual realm and ruins his life. Again, his life was already ruined, right? He'd been tortured by fused spren or something. His mom got taken over. He's lost both of his parents. He's not in a good place right now. And then he gets taken by Odium and trained to hate and lied to for 20 years. I felt like I couldn't even wrap my head around the fact that that was happening. That Gavinor, this innocent little boy that Navani was just trying to care for, had been taken and used like that. Hated it. Of anything, that is what ruins Wind and Truth for me. Not the prose, not the pacing, not the fact that it felt like it wasn't as well edited as the earlier books. Gavinor is what ruins it for me. And then, it wasn't enough that it happened to him, but the fact that all that time spent being used by Odium, and then it didn't even go down the way that Gavinor had been promised, and he just watches Dalinar give his life for him, and that's it. Like, where does Gavinor even end up at the end of Wind and Truth? It's like he was just a throwaway character, and I hate that. So I am really hoping that in the next arc, Gavinor gets something good. I hope he gets point of view chapters. I hope he gets some kind of redemption arc. I don't even know what I hope necessarily. I hope he can have some kind of relationship with Adolin and Rarin, just men in his family that he can look up to. I don't know. I hope that that is taken care of in the next arc. Is that my biggest rant? I have more, probably. Let me just cross these off as I go. There's so many characters. So next, let's do Wit. Hoid for president. There's so much still that we just don't know about Wit. A little more gets revealed in each book. We never really get to see how he feels about Jasnah breaking up with him. I feel like he should care a little bit, right? Also, the fact that he was so scared to go into the spiritual realm, because who knows what could happen there. And then Dalinar and Navani just go in, see all the visions, come back. I guess Gavor got taken. That was bad. I felt a little bit like Wit was just there to help progress the plot, and he wasn't as good of a character as he should have been. Is that really all I have to say about Wit? I mean, he has his own things. He has his own designs. He has his own plans. I still can't decide if he's like good guy or bad guy, or if such a thing even matters within the Cosmere. I don't even know. But going on to Jasnah, I certainly felt for her. She was trying the best that she knew how. She has things that she deeply cares about. Taravangian called her out on those things she cared about and then used her and how he knew she thought against her and against Queen Fen. And it's hard to be confronted with the ideal I have held all this time, all my life, that I have intellectually strived for has let me down. And she's really confronted with that face to face. And that sticking to her personal ideal didn't help. It made things worse. And is that even the ideal she holds to anymore? I believe we're going to get more of her in the second arc, maybe more of her backstory, how she got to the belief system that she has now. I think that'll be really interesting and revealing. Her relationship with Wit. I'm not sure I can be with him anymore. It's been nice, I guess. And then breaking up with him through a letter, it's like modern day version would be breaking up over a text. But she realizes that he's not what she needs in her life, and so better to let him go. She wants someone she can just have an honest relationship with, and Wit is always going to keep secrets from her, and she knows it, and that's not what she wants. So she knew what she didn't want, she got rid of it. I was really mad during the whole scene where Taravangian is like testing Jasnah, like, we're gonna have this debate, and Fen is gonna side with me, and you, Jasnah, you're going to be the one who convinces her. I'm not sure that there was anything Jasnah could have done better to get out of that. I do feel like it wasn't fair for Fen to make her decision based on the type of person that Jasnah is, and that Fen should have made her decision based on the type of person she was. And I'm not sure she did that. I feel like she was swayed too much by Jasnah, who she looks up to as this strong queen-like person. And if this queen, who I admire, would do this, then I will do that. I will watch out for my people first. And I feel like that's a dangerous route to take as their story progresses to bigger Cosmere concerns. The scope is just too big and too wide, which Jasnah is starting to see. Like, what is best for everyone? How can she possibly know? There's no way to know, only a god can know. Lift and Zahel. Okay, Lift, interestingly, when she was like seeing into the spiritual realm and she saw that vision of her mother, that was kind of emotional. And I will be open that I did not read Edge Dancer, so I don't know how much we see into her past and like the reasons that she is not physically maturing like she normally should. So for me, that little glimpse, that little peek back into her relationship with her mom, and she can't grow up because what if her mom comes back and doesn't recognize her? That cuts pretty deep. She can't come back. Her mom has to come back and find the little girl that she left, and she doesn't truly believe that her mom is actually dead, and that didn't progress anywhere. I hope that comes in the second arc. So many little things left. I felt like this one should have been more of an ending than it actually was, but no, it's just getting us through to arc 2. I do love that she went in and got to be awesome. That's what she calls her power. Her power is being awesome. And she gets to go in and be super awesome to save Zahel. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's probably easier to say Vasher. Is that a spoiler? If you've gotten this far through the Stormlight archive, maybe it's not a spoiler. I love that she got to save him, and now this guy who seemed like done with training people sees her and he's like, I want to train you. The unmatched talent, the power that this girl has. I don't know how that will be affected by the no Stormlight. Whatever. She's going to become so awesome. Let's go on to Renarin and Rlain. So their relationship, while adding to the representation in the book, never really strays into actual romance, and certainly not into spice, which is what we call adult content in books nowadays. To me, their relationship felt way more like two people who, among their own people, have always felt so out of place, and they find each other, and even though they are so different from each other, they were already different from their own people. So Renarin already didn't fit in with the other humans, the other members of Bridge 4. He always felt different and out of place. Same with Rlain. He was not like all the other singers, listeners. I always get those two confused. And so these two people who always felt out of place find each other and find that they can belong together. I feel like that is a good basis of relationship building, whether it's even a romantic relationship or not. It's just a good relationship. Szeth. We got a lot more Szeth in this book. I thought I was not going to be very happy about that. I never cared about Szeth in the other books. He was not a character I cared about reading about. I didn't find him that interesting. When I heard he was going to be one of the main characters and get the flashbacks in this book, I was disappointed. But then his chapters were some of my favorite chapters. I don't know what I expected. I don't know. I don't feel like Szeth had that much depth in the first 4 books. And now in this one, we get to see deep down into his heart, into his emotional state, into the type of person he is and what he struggles with. And I found one of his main lifelong struggles to be super relatable. And that was really, really wanting to do what's right. Not someone's opinion of right. Not that what is really right depends. Well, it depends on this. It depends on this. No, what's actually right? And if it's right, I'll do it. And I will do it to the best of my ability, and I will believe in it. And that character trait in Szeth is almost always, or always, clear until the end, let down and disappointed. And he keeps seeking after truth. What is truth? What is really the truth, and what's right? And I can understand seeking after that and devoting so much of your life to that. I get it, Szeth. Oh man, can I say one of the worst parts of the book was when he comes back and finds Molly being eaten? Yes. And then Szeth coming back later and finding the little toy that his mom had made. And then Kaladin coming back and getting it. I think he was going to get it, but Syl was already getting it. They were like, Szeth is going to need this later. Oh man, how much do I talk about Szeth? All of his family stuff. I'm going to run out of room on my card, and I have other characters to talk about. I've never done an in-depth character video on Szeth, so maybe that'll be one that I do. I have some for other Stormlight Archive characters. I think the fact that he was a main character here means that he should get one. So I will save other stuff that I have to say about him. And that takes me to Navani and Dalinar both. So I felt disappointed in what we got of Navani and Dalinar. I felt like they really weren't main characters anymore. And I felt like they were just there to get the plot going. Like the whole point of their characters was to go into the spiritual realm so we could see from their point of view the history and all the stuff that we saw through those visions. And I felt like what Navani did there didn't even really matter. She was just there to be there with Dalinar and to be there for Gavor, who also mattered to the plot. I did find it really interesting that Navani is now the second character that I know of, written by Sanderson. The other one is, what's his name? The character from the Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England. A character who doesn't need sleep. I feel like that's something that in real life Sanderson is like, wouldn't it be awesome if you just never had to sleep? How much more could you get done in life? How much more stories could I write if I just never had to sleep? That's like his fantasy that he dreams about. I just think it's funny. And I did not know what was going to happen at the end. I knew that whatever I predicted would be wrong. I knew that I was not going to be able to guess what happened at the end of the 10 days. I started to suspect that somehow Dalinar would kill Taravangian and take up Odium as Odium's vessel. I wasn't sure if he was going to take up Honor as the vessel. There were so many instances of let me say these ideals, swear these oaths, say these words, move up to the next level, and then, oh, never mind. I don't know. Dalinar, saying the words to gain honor as his vessel, and then, nope, never mind. And now Taravangian gets both. Weird. I can see why. I can see where it can be going. It probably was the only real option he had, and then he dies. And I would have much preferred that Dalinar was just dead. That he had given his life, he sacrificed himself for his grandson, like he would have done for his brother, like he would have done for his nephew if he had been there, and he finally does for his grandson. And it would have been good if it just stayed that way. And so this weird, like, cognitive shadow of the Blackthorn, that's going to cause some problems later. The Blackthorn could become some big baddie later on. Not looking forward to what happens there. And then I was just kind of disappointed. Navani and Dalinar had been built up as characters, and then just, do their characters even matter now? They're just serving the plot at this point, and that was disappointing. And now, the characters that I really wanted to talk about. Shallan, maybe not as much as the boys. My favorite thing, possibly my favorite thing in the whole book, I don't know, maybe. I might rescind that later when I'm talking about Adolin. Was how Shallan's creation spren that form her honor just yell, Shallan! Love it! No matter what she says, no matter what their reaction should be, Shallan, Shallan! Loved it so much. My favorite thing, possibly. I do love the character growth that Shallan had. She goes through a lot of healing here. She has some good breakthroughs. I had, unfortunately, seen enough online to know that there was this theory that Shallan's mother was one of the heralds, so I wasn't too surprised by that. I did not think about the fact, though, that by Shallan killing her mother and sending her back to Braze, and then her being the one who breaks and starts the desolation, like, seems like something that should have made sense if you knew that she was a herald, but I don't know. I never made those connections. I'm sure there's other people who were like, oh, what? And other people who were just like, oh, yeah, psh, I knew that. And then the scene with Shallan's mom, where she thinks she's just seeing a vision, and then she's like, wait, am I really talking to my mom here? I thought that was really nice. That was a good scene. I think Shallan really needed that. She's been working on healing and working on closure, and being able to see her and talk to her and hug her, I think was really important for her. Especially going forward, now that she's preggers. I read a funny thread where somebody mentioned Shallan being pregnant in the end, and some people were like, wait, what makes you think she's pregnant? There's signs. To someone who's had a couple of children, the signs were pretty obvious. I'm really worried that Shallan is going to go a long time without getting back to Adolin, and I'm really worried that she's going to have the baby and separated from Adolin for a long period of time. Depending on where she ends up with the whole time warp thing, like what if she has her baby and the baby is growing, meanwhile Adolin is in slowed down time, and so he doesn't even meet his child until the child is a few years old. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that they find their way to each other sooner rather than later. I really don't like that they were parted at the end. Like, their relationship has been so cute and so sweet. I just want them to be together. And if Adolin knew where Shallan was and that she was pregnant, I think he would be doing everything in his power to get to her. He just needs to find out. The fact that she has a Scion is good, and I hope that at the beginning of the next arc, they are shortly reunited. Is that all I was going to say about Shallan? Probably. Maybe. I felt like Shallan's internal struggle about killing Mraize was a little artificial. I never felt like she felt that deeply about him. And the whole thing with her being able to make those drawings, or she can draw someone, or now she doesn't have to draw, she can just project a thought of a person as they could be. She thought maybe it's because she had bonded to Spren. Now she's like, maybe it's because her mom was a herald, she has a better connection to the spiritual realm, so she can see those projections of what a person could be. I feel like that is such a powerful thing that she has the ability to do, and it should be utilized more. I want to see her show someone a vision of what they could be and have it make a bigger difference in their life. Maybe she could help with Gavinor's healing later on. We'll see. Like the Radiants who can do physical healing, Lightweavers could do emotional healing, which I guess is what Kaladin's trying to do. Okay, I'm done with Shallan. I already crossed her off. Second character I'm super mad about after Gavor, and that is Kaladin. I was really disappointed in Kaladin's character arc. Kaladin, one of my favorites, and Kaladin was that character who had been brought so low, and he has to fight through every book just to beat the darkness that takes over him pretty often. His constant battle with depression is so relatable and has spoken to so many people, and his character is such a good character. And then in this one, he felt like the awkward sidekick to Szeth, and I hated that. I hated that he wasn't a main character anymore. We get his point of view at the beginning, where he's saying goodbye to his family, and I have a feeling I'm not coming back from this one, which I had the awful feeling that Kaladin was going to die at the end. That's the feeling that was being given off to me. Anyway, I hate that he became more of a background character that didn't matter as much. Like, he matters to the end point. He had to be there at the end. The wind has been leading him on toward this point. Wit helped him get there with the flute and the music and listening to the wind. But as far as a character through this story, we just kind of lost Kaladin, and that made me sad. I do think once he got to the point of taking on being a herald, that was the right conclusion for his character arc. I'm glad he wasn't involved in any romantic relationships. I never felt like his relationship with Shallan was romantic. I felt like they connected at a deep level due to trauma that they each could share and sympathize with each other. I never felt like it was romantic. That whole, like, what if she had chosen me instead of Adolin or whatever, I never felt like that was even a possibility for those two. I'm glad he didn't have any of that to then have to leave behind when he became a herald. I like that he got to say goodbye to everybody. The one thing I really loved about Kaladin's part of the story was how deeply he believed in the power of stew. I loved that. He had such faith in the stew. The stew worked for Bridge 4, and you can't be brought much lower than Bridge 4, right? I mean, Szeth could and the heralds could, but the stew worked for him and for the people he cared about the most, and so he's going to try it. He doesn't know what else to do, so he tries stew. I really liked that. It was weird how much of Kaladin's character arc through the other books was a fight through the darkness. And this one, his character now isn't about fighting anymore, it's about healing. I think that's a good arc to take. I don't feel like it was handled as well as it could have been. I do like that he got to be a hero at the end. Everything that he's been through to make him the person that he is means that he can take up the mantle of being a herald, and I think he is the right person for the job. Probably the best person for the job. And now he gets all whatever time he has with all the heralds to work on being their heraldic therapist. The herald of therapy. I found the therapy jokes kind of cheesy, but whatever. I don't know, just the progression from the first book to now, I felt let down, which I know I'm not alone in feeling, but I wanted to end with my favorite character from the Stormlight archive and the one that I was the happiest with, and that is Adolin. Every part of his story made me happy. Every part of his arc through Wind and Truth was true to his characterization. He remained honorable the whole time. I felt if anyone had been worthy to take up the Shard of Honor and be Honor's vessel, it would have been Adolin. I think Adolin could have easily become a herald, but I'm glad he didn't since he's married and going to be a father. I loved his relationship with Emperor Yanagon. I thought that was so well done. The way he wanted to be Yanagon's friend, to do what was best for him. Yanagon was also just hilarious. I love how Adolin could see that Yanagon needed a friend and was there for him, is teaching him some manly stuff. How to fight, how to play towers. And that by the end, Yanagon had been like equipped to then lead his people and help at the end. I love how Adolin interacts with every person. I love how he believes in every person, tries to learn all their names. I love how competent he is as a fighter. Like that scene where he's fighting the one fused, I don't remember his name, who cares? And he's like, how would a non-radiant human stand a chance against a shard bearer? Well, one person did, referring to Kaladin, and so he tries Kaladin's trick of shoving through the visor, but this is a fused, so it doesn't do the damage it should have. And I love that even though Adolin was tired and injured and didn't have his armor, and is just a plain old non-radiant human, the fused with armor had to be afraid of him. I just love everything about Adolin. Love it. And the whole thing with like unoathed Spren, the dead eyes coming back and reforming as armor and blades, but also there's no Stormlight, so we're gonna have to see how that plays out in the next arc. Like, what are they going to do with this? Where does this lead? I don't know. I feel like it opens up so many more questions for the next book. I'm quickly running out of time and I'm wishing I didn't have to rush. And then Bridge 4. I have long held that Bridge 4 is the best part of the Stormlight Archive. It's the best part of the Way of Kings, of Words of Radiance. Oathbringer, they start to splinter a little more and change and evolve. And in this one, they have like mythical status. Each of those original members have moved on to be so much more than they were to start. And they have grown so much, grown beyond. They still try to meet for stew every once in a while. They still try to maintain their relationships, but it's not Bridge 4 anymore. And so the things that I loved the most from the first couple of books were not in this book. And I think for so many people, the disappointment in this one is far less about the quality of the written word than it is about our expectations and what we loved about those first ones not coming to fruition the way we expected. Expectations being here, and then what we got not meeting that. Anyway, we couldn't get everything. I would have loved more of Bridge 4. I forgot to put Zigzil on my list. Not my favorite chapters to read. Kind of spoiled by another book that I won't say in case you haven't read it. So it's not spoilers. I'm about to run out my memory card. So, happy to talk more in the comments about any of these characters or other ones I didn't mention. Let me know if you'd like a more in-depth character video of any of these characters other than Szeth. I plan on making that at some point. Thank you to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Happy reading. Bye.